My parents kicked me out to hide the fact that they drained my $200,000 trust fund to pay off my brother's debts. They think they just sold their foreclosed home to an anonymous investor to save their reputation. But they have no idea I'm the one showing up to the closing table with the eviction notice. It started on a Tuesday. A rainy Tuesday. The kind of rain that soaks into your bones and makes you feel like the world is trying to wash you away. I was sitting at the kitchen table. My table. Or at least the table I had scrubbed every night for the last 6 years while my brother Caleb played video games in the basement. My mother Linda wouldn't look me in the eye. She was aggressively wiping down the counter. A spot that was already clean. "It's just temporary, Maya," she said. Her voice was high. Tight. The voice she used when she was lying to the neighbors about why Caleb wrecked his third car. "We just need the space. Caleb needs to focus on his business ventures. And your room has the best light." My room. The room I had painted. The room where I studied for my CPA exams until my eyes burned. The room I paid rent for. Yes, rent. $500 a month. Since I was 18. "I pay rent, Mom," I said. "Calm. Keep it calm. Caleb doesn't. Why am I the one leaving?" My father Robert walked in then. He didn't look at me either. He looked at his watch. An Omega Seamaster. $4,000. He bought it 2 months ago. "Don't be selfish, Maya," he grumbled. He opened the fridge, staring into it like the answers were hidden behind the milk. "Family helps family. Your brother is going through a hard time. You have a job. You can afford a place. He can't. He can't afford a place because he spent his tuition money on online poker," I said. The silence that followed was heavy. Robert slammed the fridge door. "Enough. We are the parents. This is our house. We need you out by Friday. Caleb is moving his equipment up on Saturday." Friday. 3 days. I looked at them. Really looked at them. Linda with her fresh Botox. $400 a session. Robert with his Omega. And the new lease on the driveway. A BMW X5. "Fine," I said. I stood up. My legs felt shaky but I forced my spine straight. "I'll go." I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just went to my room and started packing. But here is the thing about being an accountant. You notice numbers. You notice discrepancies. And something about the way they were rushing me out didn't add up. It wasn't just about the room. Caleb had the entire finished basement. It was huge. He didn't need my 12 by 12 bedroom for light. They needed me gone. Physically gone. I packed my life into 12 cardboard boxes. I booked a cheap motel, the Starlight Inn on Route 9. $59 a night. It smelled like stale cigarettes and lemon pledge. On Friday I loaded my Honda Civic. Caleb watched me from the porch. He was leaning against the railing vaping. A smug little half-smile on his face. He looked like a king surveying a very small, very sad kingdom. "Don't worry, sis," he called out as I shoved my last box into the trunk. "I'll take good care of the room. Gonna turn it into a studio." "A studio for what, Caleb?" I asked. "You don't play an instrument." He just laughed. A dry hacking sound. "Investment studio. Crypto. You wouldn't understand. Big things coming." I got in my car. I didn't cry until I hit the highway. But I should have known. That night, alone in the motel room with the neon sign buzzing outside my window, I logged into my bank account. I turned 25 in 2 weeks. Grandma Edith, my mother's mother, the only person in this family who ever really saw me, had left me a trust. He died when I was 12. The deal was simple. My parents were the trustees until I turned 25. They could access the funds only for emergency health or educational needs. Otherwise it was locked. I had never touched it. I worked 2 jobs through college to avoid touching it. I wanted to buy a house. A real house. My own sanctuary. I logged into the portal. I hadn't checked it in 6 months because, well, I trusted them. They were my parents. I typed in my password. The little loading circle spun. Round and round. I was thinking about the house I wanted to buy. A little colonial on the edge of town. It needed work but it had good bones. The screen refreshed. My stomach dropped. Felt like I was in a free fall. Balance. $104,230. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes. Grandma left me $200,000. With interest over 13 years, it should have been closer to $250,000. Where was the rest? I clicked on transaction history. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely control the mouse. January 15th. Withdrawal, $12,000. February 3rd. Withdrawal, $8,500. March 20th. Withdrawal, $25,000. April 10th. Withdrawal, $40,000. The list went on. A hemorrhage of cash. They hadn't just dipped in. They were draining it. I clicked on the details. The memos were vague. Medical expenses. Tuition support. Lies. I hadn't been sick. I graduated 3 years ago. I pulled up my spreadsheet. The one I used for work. I started cross-referencing dates. The $12,000 withdrawal in January? That was the same week Caleb posted a photo of his new whip, a used Audi, on Instagram. The $40,000 in April? That was the week my parents went to Cabo for their anniversary. We saved up for years, Mom had told me, showing off her tan. They stole it. They stole almost $150,000. I sat on the edge of the motel bed. The cheap polyester spread scratched my legs. I stared at the wall. They kicked me out because I turned 25 in 2 weeks. Once I turned 25, the account would transfer fully to my name. I would see the statements. I would see the theft. They needed me gone so they could control the narrative. So they could gaslight me from a distance. Or maybe they hoped I'd be so busy trying to find an apartment and keep my job that I wouldn't check the account immediately. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep the next night either. I drove to the house on Sunday morning. I didn't call first. Caleb's Audi was in the driveway. My dad's BMW was there. Looked like a car dealership for people who live beyond their means. I used my key. It didn't work. They had changed the locks. 48 hours. They changed the locks in 48 hours. I pounded on the door. My dad opened it. He was wearing his Sunday golf clothes. Pastel polo. Khakis. He looked annoyed. Maya? We're about to leave for brunch. My key doesn't work, I said. Well, you don't live here anymore, he said. Logical. Told. We need security. Security from what? Your daughter. I pushed past him. Maya, he shouted. I walked into the kitchen. Mom was there arranging flowers. Lilies. Expensive ones. Where is my money? I asked. I didn't yell. My voice was whisper quiet. Mom froze. He put a lily down. What are you talking about? The trust. Grandma's trust. There is $150,000 missing. She turned around. Her face was a mask of confusion. A very bad acting performance. Oh, that, she said, waving a hand. We had to move some things around. The market has been terrible, Maya. You know that. The market didn't withdraw $40,000 on April 10th. You did. Dad walked into the kitchen. He stood next to Mom. A united front. The wall of denial. We borrowed it, Dad said. He crossed his arms. The Omega watch glinted in the light. For the family. We were in a tight spot. Caleb was in trouble. Caleb is always in trouble. I snapped. That wasn't your money to borrow. It was mine. Grandma left it to me. And who raised you? Dad's face turned red. Who fed you? Who put a roof over your head? You ungrateful little brat. We use a little bit of family money to save your brother from a bad situation, and you come in here acting like the IRS. A little bit? I laughed. It sounded hysterical. You took over half. And you spent it on cars and vacations. We will pay it back. Mom shouted. Stop being so dramatic. When the investments pay off, we'll put it back. But right now you need to leave. You are upsetting the energy in this house. The energy. I want it back now, I said. Or I'm going to a lawyer. Dad stepped closer. He was a big man. He used his size to intimidate people. He loomed over me. You go to a lawyer and you'll regret it, he hissed. You have no idea how the world works, Maya. We are the trustees. We have discretion. You try to sue us, you'll spend the rest of that money on legal fees and end up with nothing. Is that what you want? He poked a finger at my chest. Go back to your motel. Calm down. We'll discuss a repayment plan. Eventually. But if you make a scene, if you tell anyone, we will cut you off completely. No family. No support. Nothing. I looked at them. I looked at the granite countertops I had cleaned. The fridge full of food I wasn't allowed to eat. I realized something then. They didn't love me. They loved what I could do for them. They loved my silence. They loved my money. But they didn't love me. Hey, I said. I stepped back. Okay. Dad blinked. He hadn't expected me to fold so fast. Okay, I repeated. I'll go. I turned and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently. I got in my car. I drove to a parking lot behind a strip mall. And then I screamed. I screamed until my throat tasted like copper. But Dad was right about one thing. I didn't know how the world worked. Not yet. But I was going to learn. I spent the next 2 weeks living out of my car in the motel. I showered at Planet Fitness. I ate peanut butter sandwiches. I saved every penny. I needed to understand my position. I went to a legal aid clinic on my lunch break. The lawyer, a tired woman named Sarah, looked at the trust documents. It's messy, she said, rubbing her temples. They have broad discretion as trustees. Educational and medical is loose language. They could argue the car was for Caleb to get to school. They could argue the vacation was for mental health. You could sue, yes. But it would take years. And if they've spent the money, you can't get blood from a stone. Blood from a stone. That was the problem. If I sued them, they would just declare bankruptcy. The money was gone. I needed a different angle. I needed leverage. I went into gray rock mode. This is a term I learned online. You become a gray rock. Uninteresting. Unemotional. You give them nothing. I answered their texts with one word. Mom, are you coming for Sunday dinner? We're making pot roast. Me, no. Dad, we need to talk about the repayment schedule. Maybe $50 a month. Me, busy. I was ghosting them, but I was watching them. I monitored their social media. Caleb was posting from a VIP table at a club in the city. Dad was posting about his golf game. They were acting like they had won. And then the letter came. Not to me. To the house. I had set up mail forwarding the day I left, but the post office is slow. A few pieces of mail for Robert and Linda Miller got rerouted to my P.O. box by mistake because I shared the last name. I was standing in the post office lobby, flipping through the envelopes. Junk mail. Junk mail. And then, a certified letter from the bank. Notice of default. My heart stopped. I didn't open it. That's a felony. But I held it up to the light. You can read a lot through an envelope if you press it flat enough and use the flashlight on your phone. Amount past due, $18,400. Foreclosure proceedings to begin, October 15th. October 15th. That was 3 weeks away. I stood there in the post office, people bustling around me, and I felt the world tilt. They weren't just stealing from me to pay Caleb's debts. They were stealing from me, spending it on luxuries and not paying their mortgage. They were broke. All the flash, the cars, the watches, it was a facade. They were drowning. And instead of using my trust fund to save the house, the only asset they actually had, they used it to keep up appearances. They were going to lose the house. The house I grew up in. The house my grandfather built. And suddenly the pieces clicked into place. Why they kicked me out. They knew the foreclosure was coming. They didn't want me there when the process server showed up. They didn't want me to see the notices taped to the door. They wanted to sell it fast before the bank took it and take whatever equity was left to start over somewhere else. I ran to my car. I pulled out my laptop. I tethered it to my phone. I went to the county recorder's website. Public records. God bless public records. There it was. Elise Pendens. Filed 2 weeks ago. The bank had started the process. But here's where it gets interesting. When a house is in pre-foreclosure, the owners are desperate. They get bombarded by, we buy houses for cash, predatory investors. Sharks. My parents were proud. They wouldn't want a for sale sign in the yard. They wouldn't want the neighbors to know. They would want a quiet, private sale to an investor. I looked at my bank account. The remaining trust fund. $104,230. It wasn't enough to buy the house outright. The house was worth maybe $450,000. They owed. I checked the lien records. They owed $310,000. But wait. I checked the second mortgage. They had a HELOC, home equity line of credit. Maxed out. Another $80,000. Total debt $390,000. Value $450,000. Equity maybe $60,000. If they were lucky. If they sold it on the open market after agent fees 6% and closing costs, they would walk away with almost nothing. Maybe $10,000. They were desperate. I sat in my Honda Civic, the engine idling, and I formulated a plan. A cold, hard plan. I wasn't going to sue them. I was going to buy them out. But they would never sell to me. Not in a million years. They would burn the house down first. So I needed a mask. I spent the next 3 days setting up an LLC. Vanguard Horizon Holdings, LLC. It sounded corporate. Sounded boring. It sounded like a conglomerate of faceless investors. I used a registered agent service so my name wouldn't appear on the public paperwork. I used a UPS store address in the city for the mailing address. Cost $300. Then I needed a lawyer. A different one. Not the legal aid lady. I needed a shark. I found him. Mr. Henderson. He worked out of a strip mall, but he had a reputation for being ruthless with real estate contracts. I walked into his office. I put a binder on his desk. I want to buy a pre-foreclosure, I said. And I need the sellers to have absolutely no idea who the buyer is until the ink is dry. Mr. Henderson looked at me. He looked at my cheap shoes. He looked at the binder. You have the funds? I have the down payment, I said. And I have a pre-approval letter for a hard money loan. That was the scary part. I used the remaining trust fund, my safety net, as collateral to get a high-interest hard money loan. It was risky. Insanely risky. If this failed, I would be destitute. I would lose everything Grandma left me. Why the secrecy? Henderson asked. He lit a cigarette. He didn't seem to care about the no smoking sign. It's family, I said. He grinned. A shark's grin. The best kind of deal. Spite. Not spite, I corrected him. Justice. The trap was set. Mr. Henderson reached out to my parents. He played the part perfectly. He told them he represented an institutional investment group, looking to acquire assets in the area for a rental portfolio. They want a quick close, Henderson told them. Cash. As is. No inspections. No open houses. No signs in the yard. It was exactly what they wanted. A way to hide their shame. A way to escape without the neighbors knowing they had failed. I saw the email correspondence because Henderson forwarded everything to me. From Robert Miller to Henderson Law Subject. Offer on 42 Maple Street. We are interested. But we need a price of $440,000. We have obligations to clear. They were trying to squeeze out some profit. I told Henderson to counter. $400,000. Take it or leave it. We close in 10 days. We pay off the mortgage and the HELOC. They walk away with $10,000 cash. It was a lowball. But they had a gun to their heads. The auction date was looming. They took it. Of course they took it. Now came the waiting game. The hardest part was maintaining the silence. I wanted to scream at them. I wanted to drive by and flip them off. Instead I went to work. I audited spreadsheets. I ate my peanut butter sandwiches. I did run into Caleb once. At a gas station. I was filling up my Civic. He pulled up in the Audi. He looked tired. Dark circles under his eyes. Hey, he said. He didn't look at me. He looked at his phone. Hey, Caleb. You still living in that motel? He asked. Yeah. He snorted. Pathetic. You know, Mom and Dad are making some big moves. We're gonna be moving to a luxury condo downtown soon. Penthouse level. The lies they told themselves. That sounds nice, I said. Yeah. I'm gonna have the master suite, he bragged. They're downsizing. Giving me the space I need. Good for you, Caleb. You should have been nicer to them, he said, finally looking at me. His eyes were glassy. Maybe they would have brought you along. Maybe, I said. I finished pumping gas. See you around, Caleb. Doubt it, he laughed. I got in my car. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. 10 days, I told myself. Just 10 days. The closing day arrived. October 12th. It was a crisp autumn day. The leaves were turning red and gold. The closing was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the title company's office. A generic brick building downtown. My parents were there early. Henderson told me. They were sitting in the conference room signing the mountain of paperwork that comes with selling a house. They thought they were selling to a faceless corporation. They thought they would sign the deed, get their check for $10,000 and slip away into the night. I parked around the corner. I put on my best suit. It was a navy blue blazer I'd bought for interviews. I brushed my hair. I put on lipstick. I checked my bag. I had the eviction notice. Drafted by Henderson. 30 days to vacate. Standard for a post-foreclosure sale. I had the cashier's check for the closing costs. I walked into the building. The receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" "Yes. I'm here for the Miller closing. I'm the buyer." She blinked. "Oh. They're in conference room B. Mr. Henderson is in there." I walked down the hallway. My heels clicked on the linoleum. Click, click, click. It sounded like a countdown. I stopped at the door. I could hear my father's voice. "Glad to get this over with. The market is just too volatile right now. We felt it was time to liquidate and diversify." Always the salesman. Even at his own funeral. I took a deep breath. I opened the door. The room went silent. My parents were sitting on one side of the long mahogany table. Dad in his golf shirt. Mom in a silk scarf. Caleb was there too, slouching in a chair in the corner playing on his phone. Mr. Henderson sat at the head of the table. He looked up and gave me a tiny, imperceptible nod. "Why, Mom asked. Her voice was sharp. "What are you doing here?" Dad stood up. "Maya, this is a private business meeting. You need to leave. We don't have time for your drama today." Caleb didn't even look up. "Tell her to get lost, Dad." I didn't say anything. I walked into the room. I pulled out the chair directly opposite my father. And I sat down. "Maya." Dad barked. "Did you hear me? Get out." He looked at Mr. Henderson. "I apologize. This is our estranged daughter. Is unstable. Please call security." Mr. Henderson didn't reach for the phone. He just shuffled some papers. "Actually," Henderson said, his voice dry and scratchy like old parchment. "She has every right to be here." Dad froze. "What?" "This is the representative for Vanguard Horizon Holdings," Henderson said. My father looked at Henderson. Then he looked at me. Then back at Henderson. "I don't understand," Mom whispered. I leaned forward. I placed my hands on the table, clasped together. "I'm the buyer," I said. 3 words. Simple words. The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear the hum of the air conditioner. You could hear the buzz of the fluorescent lights. "You." Dad laughed. It was a nervous, jerky sound. "You don't have any money. You're living in a motel." "I did have money," I said. "I had a trust fund. Remember?" Dad's face went pale. The blood drained out of it so fast he looked like wax. "But we spent." He caught himself. "You spent half of it," I finished for him. "You spent about $140,000. But that left me with just enough." I pulled a folder from my bag. "I used the remaining balance, the money you hadn't managed to steal yet, to secure a hard money loan. I formed an LLC. And I made you an offer you couldn't refuse because you were 3 days away from losing the house to the bank." Caleb finally looked up from his phone. His mouth was open. "Wait," Caleb said. "She bought the house." "I bought the debt," I corrected. "And as of..." I looked at Henderson. "As of signatures on the deed which occurred 5 minutes ago," Henderson supplied. "As of 5 minutes ago," I said. "I own 42 Maple Street." My mother started to cry. Not a sad cry. A panicked, hyperventilating cry. But we have a leaseback agreement," she stammered. "Mr. Henderson said the investors would rent it back to us." "Mr. Henderson said the investors would consider a rental agreement," I said. "The investor has considered it." I slid a single sheet of paper across the polished mahogany table. Stopped right in front of my father. "Notice to vacate. You have 30 days, I said. "You can't do this," Dad whispered. He sank back into his chair. He looked small. Suddenly he looked very old. "We're your parents." "And I was your daughter," I said. "But you kicked me out to hide a felony. You stole from me. You gaslit me. You chose Caleb's gambling debts over my future." "It wasn't gambling," Caleb shouted. He stood up. "It was crypto. It was an investment." "Sit down, Caleb," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it had an edge I'd never used before. He sat down. "I could have gone to the police," I said. I could have had you arrested for embezzlement. I have the bank records. I have the dates. I matched them to your vacations and your car purchases. I tapped the folder. I still can, I added. Mom stopped crying instantly. He stared at the folder with terror. But I won't, I said. Because I just want one thing. I want you out of my house. Where will we go? Mom asked. Her voice trembled. I don't know, I said. Maybe you can find a nice motel. I hear the Starlight Inn has vacancies. It's $59 a night. Aya, please, Dad said. He was pleading now. The arrogance was gone. The Omega watch looked heavy on his wrist. We can work this out. We can live here together. We'll pay you rent. We'll give you the master bedroom. No, I said. Why are you doing this? He asked. Is this just revenge? I looked at them. I thought about the rainy Tuesday. I thought about the boxes in my car. I thought about the way they looked at me like I was garbage, something to be discarded so they could save their precious reputation. It's not revenge, I said. It's a business transaction. You were distressed sellers. I was a motivated buyer. I stood up. You have 30 days. If you aren't out by November 12th, the sheriff will remove you. And Dad. He looked up. Leave the keys on the counter. And don't take the washer and dryer. They're listed as fixtures in the contract. I turned and walked out. Mr. Henderson followed me. In the hallway he handed me a copy of the deed. That was cold, he said. He sounded impressed. They taught me well, I said. The next 30 days were a blur. I didn't go to the house. I didn't answer their calls. And they called. Oh, they called. 50 times a day. Long rambling voicemails from Mom. Angry, threatening texts from Caleb. Bargaining texts from Dad. Dad, we can't find a place. Our credit is shot. Me, not my problem. Mom, how can you do this to your family? Me, you did it to me first. On November 12th, I pulled up to the house. There was a moving truck in the driveway. A small one. U-Haul. They were hauling boxes out. The neighbors were watching. Mrs. Higgins across the street was peeking through her blinds. They hated that. They hated being seen failing. I sat in my car and watched. Caleb came out carrying a box of his equipment. He saw me. He flipped me off. But he kept walking. He looked smaller. Without the bravado of his parents' money, he was just a guy with a bad attitude and no job. Dad came out last. He put a key on the porch railing. He looked at my car. He didn't wave. He just got in his BMW, which I knew was about to be repossessed because I saw the notices for that too, and drove away. They were gone. I walked up the driveway. I picked up the key. I unlocked the door. The house was empty. It echoed. They had left a mess, of course. Trash on the floors. Scuff marks on the walls. I walked to my old room. It was empty. The paint was still the color I had chosen. Soft blue. I walked to the kitchen. I sat at the table. My phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Henderson. Title is clear. It's all yours. I took a deep breath. The air smelled like dust and stale lilies. But underneath that it smelled like something else. It smelled like ownership. It smelled like peace. Epilogue. That was 6 months ago. I didn't keep the house. I couldn't live there. Too many ghosts. Too many bad memories in the drywall. I cleaned it up. I painted over the scuff marks. I staged it. And I sold it. The market had rebounded slightly. I sold it for $460,000. After paying off the hard money loan and the fees, I walked away with about $40,000 in profit. Plus, I still had the remaining $100,000 from the trust. I bought that little colonial on the edge of town. The one with good bones. It's mine. My name is on the deed. Just my name. My parents are living in a 2-bedroom apartment in the next town over. Dad had to sell the BMW. He drives a used Ford now. Mom got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. They tell people we're estranged due to a misunderstanding. Caleb moved in with a girlfriend. Then she kicked him out. Last I heard he was couch surfing. They still try to contact me sometimes. Usually when they need money. I blocked their numbers. But I kept one thing. The Omega watch. Dad left it on the counter that final day. Maybe by accident. Maybe as a peace offering. Or maybe because he knew he couldn't afford to service it anymore. I pawned it. I got $2,500 for it. I used that money to buy a really, really nice housewarming gift for myself. A new dining room table. And every time I sit at it, every time I pay my own bills with my own money in my own house, I think about that rainy Tuesday. They thought they were burying me. They didn't know I was a seed. Here is the thing about underdog stories. People think the victory is the loud part. The shouting match. The gavel banging. But it's not. The victory is the quiet morning coffee in a house that no one can kick you out of. The victory is checking your bank account and seeing numbers that belong only to you. The victory is knowing that when the world tried to wash you away, you learned how to swim. And if my brother ever needs a room, I hear the starlight in his vacancies.